I did. We had an election at 4:30.
I'd like to call the January 14th, 2019 meeting of the Lawrenceburg Redevelopment Commission to order. We have a roll call, please.
Executive Director Brian Messmore.
Here.
Chairman Mel Davis.
Here.
Vice Chairman Randy Abner.
Here.
Secretary Dennis Hutchins.
Present.
Member Owen Cross.
Here.
Member Paul Seymour Sr.
Present.
School Board Member Brian Johnson.
Present.
And City Attorney Del Walden.
Here.
Are there any announcements? Hearing none. Financial reports.
All right. As of January 7th, 2019, the balance for redevelopment is $1,955,136.73. And after committed monies towards projects, it's $1,022,772.46.
Thank you. New business. Brian, bid opening for 501 Arch Street.
We have not received a bid for 501. We have not received a bid for. This is a property that was advertised at the average of 2 appraisals. So at this point in the process, we would wait 30 days before we can negotiate at, quote, arm's length.
Okay.
Hey, Mel, could you back up and do the minutes real quick? Approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
That's okay. We can slip them in there.
Yeah. I beg your pardon. I'm new at this job.
Yeah.
Approval of the minutes from the previous meeting.
So moved.
Here a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Sorry about that, folks.
Do I have to do that again then?
No.
Need Braille. The annual report, Brian?
The annual report is in your information this week or this month. If you will be reminded, it's a statutory requirement to prepare the annual report, and it's essentially a summary of the decisions that were made throughout 2018. It's there for your review and to fulfill our requirement.
Thank you. Hickory House Barbecue. Brian, that's yours also.
Yes, I have the owners of Hickory House Barbecue here this evening.
Brian, I can't hear you.
Well,
If you could just speak up.
There we go.
somebody turned me up. Thanks, Brian.
We got it.
All right. So you well may be aware at this point in time that the business is not open, and so they are here this evening to give you a quick update, and we will have a small discussion following.
We do know that we are in violation of our agreement of being closed more than 7
Miss?
days.
I'm sorry, could you introduce yourself?
Susie Randall.
Okay.
And this is Kevin Anderson. We are actually here to ask for an extension until your next meeting to figure out exactly what we're going to do. It all stems down from a disagreement in our lease is why we're closed.
With the landlord?
Mhm.
Okay.
So our hands are kind of tied at this moment.
Belle, do we have a legal opinion on giving an extension? Is that all right?
Legally, we can, sure.
I would make a motion that we give them another 30 days. If in fact that you're doing this because of a landlord issue, I don't know why we wouldn't give them another 30 days to try to correct that.
We're just trying to figure out what's the best for our business.
You want to share any ideas with us that you want to do?
I mean, we would really like to find a different location.
So you want to continue?
We do. We don't want to close. In no way ever do we want to close. Whether we work it out with the redevelopment, we're still going to continue.
Mr. Chairman, does Brian have anything to add to this?
Not at this time. I'll let the board.
Do you have an opinion about whether we should grant an extension?
I just think it's real important that if the extension is granted, that within that 30 days, the expectation is a full, when you come back, you either have to have a full business plan, fully vetted. I think on our side, we need to be taking a look at the contract and preparing our side for, what may or may not happen, and we need to fully execute.
So is 30 days enough for you to fulfill those requirements?
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion moved and seconded to grant the participants a 30-day extension. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank
There
you.
you go.
Work hard at it, please.
We will.
Tony Stroud, row house concept.
Hi, my name's Tony Stroud. I'm a local real estate developer, you might call me. I've been in business for 32 years, my 32nd year. I've done 2,500 transactions in my life. I specialize in distressed real estate. Normally it's from banks. I buy vacant properties, we turn them around, we actually are the owner, and then we bring businesses in or bring residential in. We basically turn it, put it back on the tax roll, and then run it, manage it, own it. So I've been doing that, like I said, for 32 years. I grew up in Harrison. I now live in Guilford, and I've watched Lawrenceburg turn around and all the things that are going on, but I'd like to see some more restaurants and bars down here. It seems like I drive to the city all the time to eat dinner and to do this. I live 10 minutes from here. It seems to me that if we had more developers come in, it seems like there's a lot of people that I've been speaking to about actually leasing the space once it's developed to their liking. So I've actually spoke to a few people about doing some things in the row house, and my concept basically would be office condos on the second and third floor, and instead of residential, push more toward office space. It seems we need a huge
On what floor, Tony?
on the second and third. The first floor restaurant, I'd really like to push more toward a craft brewery with basic food, say either a food truck or a basic small kitchen, not a full-scale kitchen. We don't want to brew, we just want to be a tap room. We want to buy from Mad Tree and some of the other places. So we want to keep it very simple, but very nice, aesthetically correct. We'd like to, and I did bring pictures. We kind of, if you want to kind of go through the pictures, I can kind of show you what I'm kind of thinking. And the big reason for me here today was just to introduce myself, talk to you about what I want to accomplish. Brian and I have spoke about this many times, and there's a lot of moving parts, I understand, with the park coming in, and I'm probably coming in a little late because you're trying to get certain things done. But if you guys are okay with this concept, what I'd like to be able to do is move forward with Brian and get our numbers down and get a full-fledged plan to you guys very, very quickly so I could get started. So,
I have a quick question for you.
sure.
Based on your presentation, are you a long-term player after you do what you do?
Yes, I'm an owner. I will keep it. My plan would probably more likely turn the upper floors into actually office condo space until the units were actually sold. I'm a big believer in any city, not one person should own all the real estate. I've always said that.
So you mentioned the second floor could be one of several things. Would one of those, could you slip back and maybe do a balcony and off the edge of the park there? I mean, stage is right there.
Right. What I would like to do basically is open that whole wall up to glass and steel balconies.
Upstairs or downstairs?
No, up basically as much of the wall as we could open. So we could actually, from the second and third floor, be able to walk outside to a steel deck, a courtyard.
There you go.
I understand there's not a lot of room. I think we talked 16 to 20 feet, but we don't need a huge balcony just to be able to step out. And in a few of the pictures there, you can actually see some from the inside looking out what the pictures look like when it's opened up in glass. And from the second and third floor, you would be able to actually look right out onto the park and onto the stage with a big
this what you're
solid
talking
wall
about?
there. Go ahead.
Just one of them?
No, actually, if you go,
A little deeper?
yeah, just a little bit deeper, right after the first inside picture would be this one.
Okay.
Now that
Yeah, I
would
got
be
that one.
from the second floor. These are all taken in over the
Okay.
Rhine.
So you're on the second floor looking through the glass window?
Right,
Got it.
right. So this is what we would want more to the effect from the second floor. Say it be at a small attorney's office or my office or somebody else's office. Currently, my office is in Ohio, and I've been wanting to make the jump to Indiana.
Well, let me
for a
stop you
while.
for a second and ask Mr. Messmore a question. Have we finished, or Dell, have we finished the process of purchasing the second row house?
Yeah, we own both of them.
So that is ours now? Because we haven't talked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you talking about both row houses?
Both row houses, yes.
I'm just trying to get caught up.
Yeah, I'd like to be able to do both row houses and more of I think what would be fitting into the plan here, because it seems like this is going more
So
toward.
you can accomplish this if you have both? 'Cause
Correct.
you got 42 times 2.
Correct. It's plenty big enough for what I need.
Enough depth.
Yeah, correct. As long as I could pick up 16 to 20 feet on the side for some outside seating, that would be really, really important to what I want to accomplish for the first and second floor.
Where do we stand with that, Brian?
Don't affect, isn't it?
I mean, the park plan is designed to allow for outdoor seating at that location.
Yeah, because we have roadway there, food truck area there,
Right.
and other area, right?
Yeah, yeah, I guess in theory, there might be a spot back there behind the stage for a food truck. Otherwise, it'd be across the street.
Or on the other side of the next block.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that I would be pitching is I'm not a restaurateur. I'm never claiming to be a restaurateur, but I will find the absolute best person to lease that space. And I've actually spoke to a few, so I don't feel that that's going to be a weak point. I think it's a strength. My strength is building out the space and getting it back on the tax roll, and then we'll kind of go from there as far as whether we're going to condo the units above or lease them out. And like I said before, I'm not a big believer in one person owning everything. I like to see more individual ownership coming into the city so that if there is a problem with one building here or there, you have 8 or 9 people with a common maintenance agreement between them all. And in the beginning, I would own them all. I don't know, how long they would take or whatever, but I kind of envision more small businesses run from the second and third floor, such as an attorney or a surveyor or architect or whatever. It seems like we have a real shortage of that space here. And those are the people that when they get off work, they're going to stop in for a craft beer and a taco or a hot dog or whatever our specialty for that day, or if we run a different menu.
Well, let me add something. Without us trying to micromanage anything from your standpoint, because if you're who I think you are, you want some independence on your thinking. But we would hope that you would look at some local people for businesses on these other floors.
That would be my plan.
And the food, if
Yes.
you could.
I've already spoken to a few local
Okay,
people.
good.
And there's other locations in Dearborn County that I like the way the business is ran, but I think it might be better suited on the park. Now, that's only my opinion, I understand that, but I do believe that that could happen very easily, and I think that it's hard for a restaurateur to come in and say, oh, I'll build this space out, I can run the electric, they're not a developer, so I believe I can build the space.
So you're a one-man shop?
Well, we have a little bit yeah, that's right.
I'm saying you can handle it.
I can handle it. I can build it out, I can build the suit, but I would be taking on the debt, I would be taking on the project, I would be filling it up, I'd be running it to completion. So, is there?
No, let's see these.
But those basic pictures, and my concept is exactly what's going on in Over the Rhine, North Side, several of the other communities that have turned things around. You know, North Side, or Over the Rhine was a big part. They took buildings exactly like we're looking at. They cut walls out, they put steel frames in, they opened it up with glass, and then they went to this restaurant or this retail space and said, hey, we'll build this out for you, you come to us, we'll offer you this. And I believe I can handle that. Well, I know I can handle that part of the business, and this is my home now. I plan
Well,
on.
have you talked to us, Brian, or anybody about what's going on in that building and a few of the challenges?
Oh yeah, no, I've looked at that building
Because
extensively.
we have some challenges.
Well, the big thing is the wall, the wall, on how that wall is going to be maintained, and Brian's actually pretty close on what he thinks, and we're pretty much in agreement on what needs to be done there. My whole philosophy would be, instead of a solid wall, let's open it up with glass and make it pretty. It's, you know, you're overlooking a $6
One of
million
the things that
wall.
this commission has insisted on that building, is that that is a possibility. Call it garage doors or whatever you want, we've always talked about it,
Okay,
that's important.
yeah, it's important to
Utilize
me
that
too.
stage view.
Because that's where people want to go
Park
now. That's what people are going to want. I want to be able to flip the garage doors up, listen to the music. You know, I know we have some challenges with the historical commission and things like that, but I do believe as long as we keep the front intact, we could pretty much eliminate the wall and run steel beams in there and weld whatever we want from there. So, does anybody have any questions on kind of what I'm thinking or anything I can answer?
The only question I have, Tony, is have you had a chance to look at the foundation of that building?
I have not been in the basement. I've been through the inside. I do believe, and I've done this a lot of times, so I do believe a lot of that's going to need to be cut and run down in either steel or concrete. Actually, Brian and I were talking about this earlier. I almost think it's going to wind up being cheaper posting and beaming that with a steel structure all the way from the basement all the way up. And then we'll basically weld the decks off of that, and who knows, if it's feasible, there may be room for a rooftop deck up there. I'm not going to commit to anything like that, but once we get the piers and everything run from the basement level, we can attach anything to that. So yeah, the whole basement, I know those buildings very well. Every 100-year-old building's the same. There's just nothing there, and you start stacking all that weight, we're going to need to go down in the basement and pier and post and all that. But that's kind of stuff that we'll have the engineer, and I think Brian already has a lot of the engineering part for that. Just like I said, I'd like to see it opened up more with more steel and more glass, but still retain the old feel. It seems like that's
Familiar with the tiebacks we've already put in.
the what?
The tiebacks.
Yeah. So, and basically that ties the wall. The walls basically separate, and water's come in over the years, the walls separate, and what's the best fix? I don't know if it's completely removing the wall and putting, some of the buildings they did in Over the Rhine, they basically built a steel structure, sturdied up the front, built a steel structure, and welded everything off the side, welded the windows in and everything. So
Created their own support.
exactly, but for historical reasons, they kept the front. So that's my vision. That's what I'd like to see here. Like I said, I live here. it would be really nice to be able to come here and have a nice place to eat. There are a few in town, I'm not saying that. And I like the way it's going. I've kept my eye on it for 25 years, but it feels like now might be the right time for me to come in here and do my
Hey,
thing.
Tony, Main Street, Hannah's back there, but they have an old study they paid for. And I say old, but that study has, Rizzo Engineering did it, he's sitting behind you. That study still has a lot of value because it has all the measurements, it has folders on the sizes of everything.
Okay.
And they have copies, Pat Kreider has copies of that engineering, and you can certainly have a copy of that, I can
Okay.
assure you. But it has a lot of information. The engineering part of it is old, and I wouldn't recommend anything there without, no, I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
no,
being
I
logical.
understand.
It's got to be, Bob, 7, 8 years
Yeah.
old, something like that.
Well, and my
But
plan
there's a lot
would-
of good stuff in that
it
book.
would be to bring as much local people that we can muster up to get the project done. We'd like to leave the money here. You know, my problem is now is I go to the city, because I'm used to going to the city. I've been doing it for 31 years. I got a system down. But I'm getting older. I'd rather be close to home. So if I can do that, who knows? We get through this one and make it great, we'll go from there.
I would like to recommend we encourage them to stay with Brian and continue.
Absolutely. The only other thing I would say, Tony, no old jokes with this group up here.
Talking about you.
No, believe me, I've been doing this for a long time, and I understand. I don't move as fast as I used to. I can
But
still
yeah,
yell just as
Keep
loud.
working with Mr. Messmore and keep us informed, if you
Will do.
would, please.
All right.
Okay?
Any other questions?
And don't be shy. Call us anytime.
Thank you. I
you,
appreciate
Tom.
your time.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you. Any other new business? Old business, marketing package, Brian Messmore.
Yeah, included in your packets is what we would refer to as the completed product of the marketing package that we prepared for downtown Lawrenceburg. If you remember, we engaged with MKSK and have been playing pitchback with them for quite some time. This is designed for us to use in a multitude of ways, but primarily tell the story about what's going on downtown and why, downtown Lawrenceburg should be a consideration for your small business and/or for you to live. So it's there for you. I know there's a couple modifications that we may want to make along the way. Right now, we're having a little trouble making those modifications on our own, so we're working through that process. But it's designed to be dynamic and flexible, and to be able to pull a couple pages out for one prospect versus the other, or hand the entire package over when required or desired. So I think it tells a nice story. There's some local business proprietors in here who have commented on downtown. As we've discussed earlier, it describes our access to the wider and greater community, and highlights the historic value and the value that we share here in Lawrenceburg.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I can add, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but this will also be available online.
Yeah,
for
we
any
have
download.
Yeah.
So we don't have to keep printing copies if people want more.
Right. The problem with the quality of print on, we would have to for professional use, we would do a little higher grade printing, and I don't want to
Kelly
incur
said
that
you're gonna do
cost.
a step up from this, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll have that available, on a small scale, but probably try to do that as needed
Right.
to avoid those kinds of costs.
Any other questions? Firehouse update.
Hey, before you do that, Brian, any comments on this one you put in?
No, there's a couple extra articles that we placed in your packet this month.
I'm talking about the 20 ingredients.
Yeah, there's the you know, we've talked about this before, you know, Main Street, and I have the opportunity sometimes, and the opportunity is always extended to you guys and girls, to visit other places and see what other towns and communities are doing. And this is just an example of, you know, somebody's essay on the 20 ingredients of an outstanding downtown, much of which are things that have been talked and discussed and promoted here in our community for a number of years.
A lot of it apply to us.
Yeah, and it's just nice to read them again and reaffirm some thoughts and challenge some thoughts in some cases. And sometimes you run across something that you haven't thought of. So there's another one. Isn't there two in there, Kelly?
Yeah, there should be another.
The other one was about, I think it's about coffee shops. Is that correct? The other one was
it's in there.
about coffee shops. And again, it's an article that describes,
Kelly.
you know, the value of
Yeah, it's in there.
coffee shops in revitalizing downtowns, and, you know, not just a coffee shop, but a coffee shop that provides a community,
Got it. I did read my packet.
an atmosphere for people to sit and enjoy themselves. So, and those are things we discuss and talk about here frequently. So that's just additional reading for your pleasure.
Any other questions, comments? Firehouse update, Brian?
Okay, last, I have rezos here this evening. If there's any questions, I just wanted to give an update to the board on the progress for reaching a deal for the development of that property. At this point, we are still trying to finalize the cost for the renovation of the property to make it restaurant ready. So we do not have a final number on that. The other piece of that is the restaurant chef manager has now completed the sale of his business, and Rezo is now able to work in finalizing some numbers with him, and that would
Hebron.
I'm talking about Darren at Hebron Grill. So we have a good team put together, but we can't finalize any numbers until we have those two critical factors in place.
Have we had an appraisal on the building for the sale of it?
We have an appraisal on the building, Mel. We accepted RFPs last month, or been accepting them. The board selected Rezo Engineering, who had an option or a plan to purchase the building for a nominal amount, and continue to discuss what our participation might be on a build out. So while we're gathering those numbers, we're trying to figure out what the best deal is for both the city and the owner. So don't know exactly what that acquisition cost will be. It kind of depends on what the build out is, and you know what deal makes sense for both long term. That's a lot, isn't it?
I'm a little confused.
Go ahead.
We are determining the cost of the building based on what?
The original proposal said they would buy the building for $100.
For how
And
much?
then
I'm sorry?
$100.
You're talking about their RFP they received?
Yes.
Okay.
And what I'm trying to describe is that as we're gathering numeric values in a business plan with the restaurant manager, that we have left the acquisition number open in the negotiations because we might find a better number that better fits the deal, short-term, long-term, protects the city and our investment as well as theirs. So we have not agreed on an acquisition cost.
But wouldn't it be their responsibility to deal with, they told us at the last redevelopment meeting that they have 4 different possible groups to put in there for dining experiences. I will admit that I was hoping at the end of that meeting and after that they would, hopefully Darren was one of them. And I asked them and they said yes from Hebron, but they had 3 others. But that's their responsibility to.
And they have selected Darren, and we are
Let me finish
continuing.
my
Yes.
comment. It is their responsibility at this point to go forward. He's an engineer and an architect to come up with the numbers that he thinks it's going to take, along with whoever that provider is that he picks. If we awarded it to him to go forward, that's still where we are, correct? Yes or no?
That's still where we are. However, selling the building for $100 is not necessarily where we're going to end up.
I'm not hung up on the $100.
Okay. All right.
Brian.
Yes.
I'm saying is that we need to deal with them on a contract to get a purchase.
That's
I
what
don't
we're, that's,
understand why we, as the city, would be negotiating with the restaurateur that they're going to put in there.
we're not negotiating with him. They are negotiating, working a deal out with the restaurateur. Okay? Once they have those numbers, they will better understand what numbers they need in order to be profitable with the building itself. We're going to back ourselves into a deal that they accept and we accept that protects the city, and we should have a fairly decent handle on that by the next meeting.
Is this a deal to purchase the building?
Purchase or lease.
Lease?
Purchase or lease.
I thought I could be wrong, but I thought the redevelopment commission voted to sell the building because there were 2 other people that wanted to lease it, I think.
They voted for me to continue to negotiate with the resos.
Yes.
And that's what I'm doing. I'm leaving all options open to protect the city. You might get a better deal than you know.
I don't remember it that way, Brian. We voted to give the Rizzo Group, based on their RFP return. They actually returned an RFP in its entirety. I mean, in detail, their RFP. Yes, they did offer a low amount for that, and if we want to renegotiate that with that, that's fine with me. But our deal last meeting, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, we voted to award them the property. So there should be a purchase agreement in a way. I'm confused as to why we're involved in the restaurant end of it at this point. I know we're concerned about what the restaurant is going to be, and I trust them to take their word. Bob's got a huge reputation on the line here. Well, I'd like to finish, Mr. Mayor, first. Mr. Mayor, I'd really like to finish my
Hold on,
question.
Dennis.
No, I'm sorry.
Hold on. Okay, I know what you
You're
guys
going to
voted
step
on.
over the top of me, Mr. Mayor. I don't know why that's necessary. I want to ask Brian a question. Are we negotiating with them based now on what we voted on last week?
Yes, you are. I'll answer that.
That's fine, Kelly.
Okay, now I'll talk.
Well,
All
that's
right.
fine too, Kelly.
Okay. What I would ask is, this is just an update tonight. I think that's the way it was presented. They're here to answer any questions on an update. The deal has not been solidified, and I haven't been in negotiations with it, all right? But just listening to what you guys are talking about, none of it's making sense.
I'm confused myself.
Well, you're making me confused.
Well, I'm sorry, but I'm
But
confused.
anyway, I'm going to tell you right now, there is no negotiation has been finalized. We're going to get the best deal for the city that we can get. Okay? I don't care if it's a lease or a sale, it's going to be the best deal for the city. Because we've already been through this.
Kelly, we did not vote on a lease. We voted on a sale.
You voted on an RFP that was, that they had offered up.
We did indeed.
Okay, so you're okay to sell the building for $100?
If we get what we want in the end, I'm fine with it, yeah. I'm not happy about it, but
That's ridiculous.
No, I'm not, why would you call me ridiculous?
No, I said that is ridiculous.
We've sold that building for nothing
I
in the
know, and you
past.
know what? It's time to do things differently.
We have a company that wants to do it
And
differently.
right, and they're willing to negotiate with us. That's what we're trying to do.
So you're saying they're okay with a lease?
I can't answer that for them. I haven't.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Sorry.
Mike, did you want to say something? I saw you start to get up.
Well, I mean, I'm happy to talk as well.
That's right, he's a good guy, he'll stand there by you.
I mean, we just haven't gotten to the point where we've finalized any type of development agreement yet. So, and a lot of that has to do with the holidays and trying to get all these numbers together. And the fact that I couldn't start negotiating with Darren because I saw Darren, I was informed that Darren Harris was was submitting an RFP like a week before that meeting. So at that point, you know, I backed off because I didn't know how that was going to go. So we didn't really get into some serious negotiation between us and him till after that. Okay, so he owes me some information as of yet. So that's kind of where we are. We're really close at this point. I mean, I was telling Brian, I think I'm a week to a week and a half to getting everything in. Okay, then at that point we can sit down again and then really start putting some hard numbers down. And if you want us to purchase whatever the purchase price is, that's what it is. Okay, it goes into the total development cost. You know, if we pay $100 for the building, there's more of our funds that we're putting into the development.
That's what we assume.
If we pay $80,000 or $100,000 for the building, that's less of our funds. I mean, it's all the same package. That's the way we were looking at it. The purchase is part of the development cost.
Yeah, what I thought we voted on that night was to agree to get with Brian, negotiate this out, then they would bring it back to us to make a decision on what we're going to do with it. Ain't that right?
Yeah,
and you're supposed to work with Brian to get some numbers, get everything down pat, so we know what's going on, whether we lease it to you or sell it to you. I think most of the people here would like to sell it to you, but like you said, it may be in the best interest of the city if we lease it. So that's what we pay Brian for, is to find out these things and come back to us.
And obviously
we can make that decision.
We haven't gotten to that point, so I don't even know if it's a bad deal for us yet. You know what I'm saying? It's got to be a good deal for you, the city. It's got to be a good deal for us. I look at it as we're a partner in this.
Right.
So
trying to come up with the right numbers that work for both of us.
Yes.
So you guys are okay with a lease or a purchase?
At this point, we'd just like to see something come together on paper. I'm not throwing out a lease as I don't have a problem with necessarily a lease if it makes sense.
You would work either way?
Like I said, I think it kind of depends on what the numbers come back. I mean, we wouldn't want to sell the building for $100
No, I
and then
understand
figure
that,
out
no.
we owe $500,000
But that's what we want them to get with you.
in development cost. I mean, before we do anything, we need to know what the build-out's going to be.
The question.
I agree with that.
Okay.
So that's
thought
what we're
that
waiting
last
on.
month.
It's an update.
I just don't want to speak
Go ahead.
entirely
Go
for
ahead.
myself. So
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. We did have option A and an option B. Don't forget that, on two ways to purchase it. And the other is lease. I'm not against a lease if it's a short-term lease, then would grow into a purchase agreement,
So you're saying that the lease would roll into a purchase agreement?
if that's what it takes.
That's something that these
no,
guys...
I think that's the way when it first came up, how it was presented. If I may be wrong, but I thought Brian, isn't that the way?
That's absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, short-term lease to guarantee the city the ability to have a long-term package and not a developer that's left after a year.
I mean, bottom line. Okay, I want to get replacement, and that's the deal I'm working on.
Hey, how close are you guys on coming up with some numbers, Bob and Mike?
I think Mike said a week.
Yeah, I think we're about a week and a half, so I can take everything back to Brian at that
Okay.
point, and we can sit
So
down.
we can expect something maybe next month.
Absolutely.
yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I would think in 3 weeks, if I can get you something in a week, 3 weeks, we could have to hammer something
I'm
out.
hoping we can be,
I'm hoping to be able to present several options to the board for consideration.
Does that include all the infrastructure costs also? Because there's water lines,
Yes.
sewer lines, grease pits, and the whole mess.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It'll be a total package.
Okay, all right, all right.
So Darren's in the mix on this, so he's your choice.
Yes, we've gone through initial negotiations with him. He's fired up about it. It looks like the deal between us and him, there's no issues, other than just trying to finalize. Obviously, what the numbers come in at is going to be important, because that's going to determine the final lease
Right.
amounts and.
Are you basing all this still on phase one?
Phase one only is what.
That's why I'm asking the question.
Yes.
I just got called ridiculous a few minutes ago, so I'm asking
Phase
again.
one would be the bottom floor and the outside seating, is that correct?
Correct. Correct.
Fine.
Correct.
All right, thanks, guys.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob, appreciate it.
okay.
Thank you.
Row house update.
Okay, we did have a little row house discussion earlier. I almost brought this up during that discussion, but since it was on the agenda, I just chose to wait. As you're aware, we're pursuing the fix on the exterior wall of the row house. You will see as part of the claims this week, part of the engineering fees that submittal for an invoice has been placed. We will be receiving, we had our pre-bid meeting last week. We'll be receiving bids this Thursday. I believe we're scheduling a meeting for this board to review those bids next Monday. Is that correct, Kelly? For the exterior of the wall.
That's the, would be the west wall?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. Again, we've been trying to get that wall secured.
Let me ask you a question, Brian, and this is just me being curious.
I know what you're going to ask.
Okay,
Tuesday,
I bet I do too.
Monday.
with what Tony has proposed, would you include that cost in with something like that?
Well, clearly, I think there's a couple ways to look at it. First of all, the price to get that secured prior to the opening of the park.
Yeah.
And we have discussed several options, and there's always a lot of ideas. So that's the path that I'm on. I'm on the path of getting that fixed. That wall, like any other wall, can be modified. I mean, if the numbers work out and that is the place to do what has been suggested this evening, then that design would include cutting new openings in that finished wall.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess
so. There's no. I don't believe there's any way to incorporate what might happen or what might be possible into a short-term plan
Brian,
and a
what
goal
would
that we've had
ballpark
for
price
6
be
months.
for all of this to fix it?
Probably. I'm hoping that's no more.
Does that include? I don't know what's. I know
I know.
wrong with the wall. It's like this, but does that include foundation work?
Well, the wall's stabilized, Mel.
Yeah, I know the wall is, but the foundation might not be.
No, it does not include foundation work. This is exterior improvements, some structural components that go through the three width 3 Wythe. Go through the brick and attach to the inside.
Okay.
In several locations, they've been engineered.
Okay.
The design,
So
we
to tie
had to
that-
get a state
tie those
design.
two walls
yeah.
together.
We had to
Okay,
get a
I'm
state
with you. All right.
design release to do that. As far as I know, we haven't got that release yet. We're also doing some modifications in the front to, again, hold the facade to the structure of the building itself. So we're in the, I'm full bore on that right now. And it makes sense to question, what if. But my recommendation is that we continue and get that wall repaired like we said we were going to do.
To pull it and tie it to the
Yeah.
east wall.
Yeah. And there, go ahead.
On the presentation that I heard a half hour ago, I thought Mel was going to go this direction. Would it be smart for us to hold off a little while on that and see if we work out something with Mr.
That was my
I
question.
thought that's where you were
Yeah,
going.
yeah.
Okay. And if we're going to have a $200,000 investment for your portion of what you're talking about of fixing the wall so people can do what they want inside the building, would it behoove us to be, or prudent of us economically, to include him in the process and devote that money maybe in with what he's thinking? I'm only asking out loud from a logic flow.
Right.
Here's what I'm thinking, Brian. If
The wall, do it now.
I understand, but if Tony, let's say you and Tony reach an agreement, okay? And his concept is to open that wall with steel beams like is shown in some of these pictures. If you're gonna spend $200,000, we're gonna spend $200,000 to stabilize the wall, and he's gonna buy the building and put this steel thing in, doesn't that work better, or that's what I'm asking?
Well, no matter what we do on the exterior wall, it will require most like an internal steel skeleton structure. So then the question will be placement of openings and how you engineer those within the spaces that
Let
are
me ask,
available.
Tony, can I ask you a question? Would you step up to the podium, just make it official? Would you be willing to work with Brian on this new level to see if we can come up to some sort of a conclusion to expedite this?
Sure, I'd love to. I mean, if I saw what they were actually doing, maybe I can give some input on, no matter if it's me or if it's somebody else that comes in there with the restaurant, somebody's going to want those openings in
Well,
there.
I'm looking at it from a standpoint that if it were you,
Yeah,
and you were involved with him, and we were going to put money in that building, wouldn't we want to glue these two pieces together?
I would
I'm just
say.
asking, guys. It's a
Well, I
question
think yes. I mean, yeah, obviously you would, but I think, you don't know. There's so many unknowns in this whole thing. I mean, we don't know what the deal's going to be, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars in addition
Are
to
you
what we.
willing to work with Brian on it?
Sure.
But
Yeah.
what I've been commissioned to do is get that wall fixed before the park opens, and that's what I'm continuing to do. I have no problem sitting down and brainstorming some possible ideas along the way, but I cannot delay my schedule and meet that park opening.
I definitely think that it should be done very quickly. I think with what I'm wanting to do, when all those layers of brick are removed, it's less that you're tying together and stabilizing. So you might be able to accomplish the same thing through the same contractor. I don't know, because I haven't seen any drawings, and Brian's been working on that, but I'm sure there's some kind of compromise that could be done very quickly in just a simple change, because a lot of that structure, when it separates, it needs to be pulled back in or removed. Sometimes it's cheaper just to remove the wall and put a skeleton in there, and then just frame around it with glass. I mean, I don't know, Brian and I have talked briefly about it.
We had an engineer, Paul Seymour Sr. has walked out, Jr. has walked out. But we have a construction committee, which is Messmore, Hutchins, and Seymour. And he hired an engineer that came in, I can't think of the guy's name. And he said exactly the same thing to us in our meeting, our construction meeting, that it may be more plausible or reasonable to remove the wall and build another wall to work off for the future rather than do these repairs.
But if we
I
very
remember
well,
that right, Brian?
I don't remember it specifically.
Yeah.
no.
Well,
And,
that's
and
all I remember.
Yeah, and a lot of that is how quick, and Brian and I had spoke about this, how quick the historical commission can sign off on it or whatever, but just off of the years that I've been doing it, I've seen that done many times where the walls are so bad and so costly to fix, you just remove them. You know, there's temporary walls, there's skeletons that are built, whether it's out of wood, whether it's
So
out
the
of steel.
Historic Society going to get in the way, Brian?
I don't know that they would get in the way on purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we would have to
Mario,
fulfill our
have a
obligation
comment
with
on that?
notification and those sorts of things. I mean, here's what you got to decide. We're going to open that park up with a wall finished or not.
I understand, but what I was trying to get at, if we're
I mean,
gonna,
Yeah, Brian,
the
of
wall.
course we want it done, but I mean.
I understand that,
if
but
we
you
have an
gotta make a decision.
opportunity to be prudent with it,
I agree.
okay.
If you're willing to open that park in hopes that this all works out, then make a
So now
vote.
you're doing the same thing the mayor just did to me 20 minutes ago about a $10 thing.
Dennis,
or
I already
$100.
recommended that we continue with the fix of the wall. Okay, if you're willing to risk not having anything done by the time the park opens, then vote me to do something different. But right now, my job is to get that wall fixed before the park opens. And I will sit down with
well,
Mr. Stroud tomorrow and see if there's anything we can come up with.
Yeah.
That's what I
Not
think they're
opposed to
talking
that.
about. I think what they're talking about, Brian, is, let's say we fix the wall, okay, and then we sell the building to Tony or someone like Tony, and then they come in and say, oh, well, we're gonna tear it down anyway.
I understand that.
Yeah, that's the
I
part.
get all that.
Yeah, that's the part I'm looking for.
I mean, I'm just, and I want, you hold your position, I'll hold mine. It's not a negative thing.
Yeah.
It's, I'm trying to get that wall fixed before the park opens. That's the job I have right now. We
And
can,
that's going to cost us $200,000.
yeah.
Well, go ahead. I think with you guys working together, maybe he has some ideas with his experience that if somebody buys it and wants to open it, they won't destroy what we've spent $200,000 on. That's what I'm saying.
Well, we haven't authorized the payment of $200,000 yet.
Well,
We authorized Brian to go forward and look for a
solution?
solution. Yes, absolutely, we did that. And someone tonight has come forward and offered, I think, a partial solution to where we can look at. And
Because there's a lot of ways to fix that wall. And one thing is, it's not the face of the building, so it's a side wall, running, although it's on the park. I don't think we're going to have the same historical features as we did running down the side as we do on the front of the building. And I think Brian already, had talked about that.
That's fair.
Yeah. Now I could be wrong. I mean, maybe Indiana Historical Society is different than Ohio, but typically, if we keep it all historically correct in the front, and that's what they did in Over the Rhine.
Well, you have two members sitting here tonight that are on that.
Oh,
Three, I'm
okay.
sorry,
Well,
Mike.
that was actually controlled by
That's
the,
only one board. We have, this is our local board, but we have the historic landmarks.
Okay, we can get into that. We can get into that later, Mike.
so, again, I don't have a problem. I'm trying to say, this is the consequences. That wall won't be done before the park opens, and this may or may not work out as an opportunity. I will sit down with Tony as early as we can, and I'll show him every plan that we've got, both interior and exterior on that building. The bid openings are Thursday, and I assume we don't have to accept bids if we change our mind. But I think we make a plan, we should be pretty sure about it.
And sometimes a guy walks through the door and offers an alternative. That happens too.
And I definitely think whoever does it, somebody needs, it definitely needs to be done fast. And, you know, like I said, whether it's tore out and redone or stuccoed and put together, something has to happen. I mean, that building is obviously getting worse over the last few years, so. Okay. Yeah, but I'll definitely contact Brian and we'll work together to do whatever, you know, whatever we can. I'll always give my opinion, whether, you know, I hope you guys decide on me and I hope I can do the project, but I still feel that's the fix for the city. So one way or another, you want it to look good on
Tony,
the
it
park.
just seemed to me, if Brian gave us a figure at 200,000, and we're gonna maybe have a person like you in there, and if you could do the job and we can include that money and not spend it twice,
I agree.
That's where I would say we have a responsibility up here.
Oh, I totally agree. And a lot of the money I think that Brian's talking about is the cost. When you have those bricks that are separated 3 or 4 wide, you know, however wide they are, is pulling all those soft bricks back together, anchoring everything on a normal basis if that's just cut out and removed. If I take out 80% of the wall and put a skeleton in there, a metal skeleton or a wood post and beam construction, however we decide to do that, I'm going to eliminate a lot of that tie together cost and stucco and everything else. We may be able to eliminate.
What's the timeline for the park to open now, Brian?
It opens June 1st.
Are they still on target?
And I think that's very doable if, you know, if we, and maybe even Brian's already got, if he already has some kind of skeleton structure there, it might be, instead of saving some of those bricks, just eliminating them and having a skeleton there and coming in with all glass. I've seen those things done several times. It's not uncommon. They take parking garages and, you know, run glass up the face of them. So it's very, I think we could still keep it on track and not have, you know, you don't want to be tearing down a wall, but it gives us enough time if we could make it happen and work together to get it done. So
I'd like you to at least look at that.
Okay.
okay.
Make sure you know, and again, just to keep in mind that, you know, if we were to find a solution for this wall, which would include probably a substantial investment in the deal that we would broker too. So I mean,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, it comes along with.
Agreed.
Okay.
Right. And my costs, if my costs are 200,000 and your costs are 200,000, if we could get what we want for the same amount of money, I'd just back my deal down. I would be more than willing to do that if we could.
That's why I asked you to step up to the plate.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, then maybe you two can get together and have a meeting.
I'll come first thing in the morning.
You can just stay at my house tonight so you're closer to the office.
I know where Brian lives.
Main Street update, Brian? Oh, I'm sorry, Dale.
So we already have a design for that wall, and we're opening bids on Thursday, so what should we do? Do we want to stop that process?
I don't think we should stop it. We have bids that are in the city. Have you received the bids?
They'll be open Thursday. So we paid a company to do a design for that wall.
Yeah.
We did.
We bid out the project. Bids are being opened on Thursday.
Who did we?
Yeah, I
Who did
want
we
to
hire
know
for that?
who got the bid?
Well, we did it through Maxwell as part of the
okay.
park project.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Yes.
You guys approved
We did.
paying for the
Maxwell.
design, and we paid them for the design, and we have a design that involves what Mr. Messmore is saying. So if we change the design, we're going to have to.
Well, I think we have a potential
We don't
owner
have to
of a
award
building here, and we're looking at all phases of this right now, Del.
Yeah, we don't have to.
But I
award
need
the
to know
bid
what to
right
do
now.
on Thursday.
We can open the bids, but we can postpone awarding, can't we?
If you want, yeah.
We don't have to act on them. I think we should continue.
I mean, if they meet Friday instead of Thursday, it's not a big deal.
Well, hold on a second. If we've done all this and we've paid money, we definitely need to go forward and open the bid and hold off on it. Because if his deal doesn't work out with us, we're still committed to doing this park before the park opens.
Yeah.
So I think the answer is absolutely. We go forward Thursday, but we don't select yet. That's my recommendation.
Okay.
You agree?
Yes. Tony.
Absolutely.
Back up
we go
there.
forward.
That's what I said, yeah.
Mel, I got a couple questions for Tony, if you don't mind.
Okay, sure, go
All
ahead.
right.
All right. Do you want the city in Lawrenceburg involved, if you get if you got that building, do you want to buy that building?
I am a buyer. I am a buyer. I am a buyer of the building. That's what I do. I buy and I develop.
You don't want to lease?
I don't want to lease. I am a buyer. I release. My push would be to convert it to office condos and a retail condo on the first floor, and eventually resell and put more ownership in there than just me.
Earlier, I thought we were in Manhattan for a minute, where we lease and they sublease.
Yeah.
That's not what we're doing, so, okay.
So that's me. I don't know. I'm not speaking for. I'm a buyer. That's how I run my business.
You mentioned a little earlier ownership.
Correct.
You want to own the project.
I want to own the project.
You don't want Lawrenceburg involved in the project if you get the building.
I will probably need some. Well, I know I'll need some form of monetary incentive. Yeah. But my basic project, I do 95% of my work is private. I just need to get the okay and everybody get out of my way.
All right.
I don't need it.
This particular case, Tony, I hear you clearly, but we have an investment in the park.
No, I understand that.
And Dell's point is we need to protect, and Brian's point is we have to protect that.
No, I understand that. I just don't need the hand holding. We lay out a plan and you guys say done, build it.
This is refreshing, actually, to me, to hear what you're saying tonight. I don't know about you, but it's refreshing.
You sit too close to make that statement.
I love you, you know that, so you're okay.
Oh, my gosh.
All right, thank you.
Any other comments? Main Street update, Brian?
Some information from Main Street. I believe we have guidelines. We just went over them again last week and added some additional clarification and tightened a few things up.
Thank her for that.
And tightened a few things up. Hannah, did you like to say something? Just if you have any questions, it's an update.
Anybody have any questions?
We did calculate our difference, which equals our investment in the program for next year, and it's about $83,000, if I remember correctly. And what that does is it puts money back in those programs at the original level, minus what was left.
Well, I just wanted to thank Hannah. She clarified a couple of things that I asked her to do.
Yeah, I think there's a date column in there somewhere, and
Hannah, thank you very much. Yeah.
Could we get a motion for that so I can pay this claim for the 83?
So
please.
moved.
Thank you. Someone make a second.
Oh, hold on, before we do claims.
No, this isn't. No, this is separate. This isn't in your claims. Yeah, I just need a motion to actually do this and fund the program, the investment program.
So moved.
Okay.
Need a second.
Moved. Anybody second?
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded to pay the claim to Main Street. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Are you happy now?
I am.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank
Any other comments or concerns or questions? I'll accept a motion to approve the claims once
moved.
properly certified.
So moved.
Moved.
I'll
Need a
second.
second.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded to pay the bills. All in favor?
Aye. Guys are killing me tonight.
Opposed? Any comments from the audience?
My name is Tim Denning, and I got to kind of get this off my chest. I was involved in a project with the firehouse 7 years ago. Every time the firehouse comes up, there is rumors, there's social media stuff thrown all over the place. that there was some sort of stealing, some sort of wrongdoing. And I want to make it perfectly clear to everybody. I was investigated by the FBI, the IRS, the Indiana State Police, and they found no wrongdoing. So if you have any questions of what transpired with me in that firehouse, please ask me directly. That's all I have. Thank you.
Tim, before you go to your seat, Dennis Carr's administration asked me in the last 3 months to sit on the 10-county grant. And one of the things that we put to bed, and Mario was there on that wrap-up, was the firehouse. And we said, we've heard enough about the firehouse. We're done with the firehouse. We're going forward. And it's all done. So anything you hear, it's not from anything from anybody up here. Okay.
I just appreciate if somebody's got a piece of confusion and they feel like I'm some sort of criminal, then stand right in front of me and ask me the question. Thank you all very much.
Any other comments?
I have one.
Shoot.
It's for Tom Schneider.
Shoot.
He said he's sorry that he can't be here, but he's got a broken foot. He had surgery. And poor Linda has got him for 2 weeks. He can't get out of bed. So just wanted to let you know he couldn't come up for any comments tonight.
God bless his
Sorry,
heart.
Tom.
Anyone else? I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor?